So we want to talk about selecting the right plant for your location. And this is also something you would see with outside gardening. Sometimes when you go to a garden store, many times you'll find like a bush that does really well, needs direct sunlight or, prefers shade. And that also applies to indoor plants. There are some indoor plants that need highlight. There are other plants that will do well in lower light, and then there's quite a few plants that are in between. And we are going to be providing you a list of those plants, of low light plants, high light plants, and then all the other plants that are in the middle, medium light plants. And that is really important because one of the biggest mistakes that people make with indoor plants is not having the right type of light for the plant that they have. So I have to try to make it as simple as possible. So first, find the place that your plant is going to go. And once you've found that location, get an idea of what type of light it is, and then try to purchase a plant that will do well in that location. And this is much better than just going to a garden center and just buying a plant and then bringing it back and putting it in a location where it's not going to do well. So some good examples of where you would find high light, medium light, and low light. So we're in a greenhouse. Of course, you're not going to have conditions like this, but that's why a greenhouse is like this. There's lots and lots of light. And if we don't have enough light, it's one of the most common problems. You're going to start getting yellow leaves. The plant will stretch out and it won't last as long. So highlight areas in buildings often have a window that's facing south. That's typically the best window that you can put a highlight plant in. No matter what, if you have a highlight plant, you want it in a window, preferably south, but you could also use an east-facing window or a west-facing window, but avoid a north-facing window for highlight plants. And if you don't have a window, I really wouldn't be using a highlight plant indoors. Medium light plants, they can go in a south-facing window. They can also go in an east or west-facing window. So typically those type of plants are going to do well as long as they're in a window. They might even do okay in a north window, but they would prefer like an east or west-facing window. And kind of the same thing, if you're not near a window, I wouldn't be using a medium light plant. And then there's low light plants. This is an aglaonema. This is an example of a low light plant where it doesn't have to be in a window. You could put it in a south-facing window, but if you have a south-facing window, you have so many other plants to choose from. I'd probably go with a medium or highlight plant. You could put it in an east-facing window or a west-facing window. It might be a little too much light for the plant. So a low-light plant would probably do best in a north-facing window. And it can also be maybe not in a window, but near a window, including like a south or east or west-facing window. And then it may also go in an area just like a regular classroom where you may not have windows or the windows are far away, but you just have regular lighting. And if that's all you have is just typical indoor lighting for an office or a classroom or whatever the case may be, these type of plants are going to do the best in those locations. You might also have a hallway as an example. Hallways are typically very low light. You don't have windows there. Low light plants, stick with those and you do pretty good. And then also with your location, what you want to do with your plants is rotate them. And I'm going to demonstrate that. We want to rotate the plant every time we go to water that plant. And the reason we want to do that is if we don't rotate the plant, then one side of the plant is going to get more light than the other. And then the plant is going to start growing in the direction of that light. That's called phototropism. And we want to not have that because then the plant isn't balanced. And a lot of times you also end up with is more leaves on the side that has a higher light and then very few leaves on the other side of the plant. And then again, it's just not a balanced, good-looking plant at that point. So every time you water the plant, and if it's a plant that doesn't need to be watered very often, maybe every couple weeks, just go ahead and rotate it to keep that plant balanced. And that's really about it in terms of light. And in some situations, you may need to add light. So in general, any light is better than no light. So regardless of what type of light bulb you have, If you have light, that's great. If you don't have light and you're adding light to that location, you could buy a grow light, and that grow light is going to provide the amount of light and the right colors of light for that plant. If you don't have a grow light, even things like fluorescent lights, or nowadays most lights are LED, most grow lights are LED lights, and so just trying to stay, within some type of light. Incandescent lights will work as well, but incandescent lights are very inefficient energy-wise. So if you're looking for a light, I wouldn't use an incandescent. I would try to get some sort of LED light, grow light.